Hello and welcome to my review of Pohopoco ATV Trails, situated in the Delaware State Forest in the Pocono Mountains in Blakeslee, Pennsylvania. Today I'm going to discuss and review the Pohopoco ATV Trails based on terrain, accessibility, navigation, cost, parking, difficulty, and an overall rating and impression. First, let's discuss the terrain of the Pohopoco Trails. These trails feature 14 miles of a variety of different terrain types, ranging from hard-packed mud pits and rocky terrain situated in the Delaware State Forest in the Pocono Mountains in Blakeslee, Pennsylvania, miles away from the Pocono Motor Speedway. These trails are extremely rocky, so if you are looking for a smooth ride, this is definitely not the trail for you. These are some very rough trails with deep ruts in addition to the rocky terrain. When the mud pits are partially dried up, I did find one on my visit that the mud pits presented a lot of deep ruts, which made for very, very difficult navigation. It made trails that you would normally maybe have been a little slightly more difficult into very technical portions of the trails. To limit the size of the ATVs and side-by-sides that are allowed on these trails, they do have gates set up that are set at 58 inches, and they are scattered throughout the park. A lot of these gates, however, are very oddly positioned by trees and angled ever so slightly, making them very difficult to navigate, especially with longer and larger side-by-side. I do have a Can-Am Maverick Trail, which is a 58-inch machine, and I did find that I did have a lot of difficulty navigating these, not because of getting it to go between the gates, but I did find a lot of them were very, just angled slightly, and it just made it very difficult to get through because a lot of them are positioned right by trees or right by the dried up ruts that used to be mud pits that don't seem really to be that much of mud pits anymore. They just seemed very dried up and very ruddy. So if you are looking for a very easy trail, I probably would not recommend this trail. Like I said, a lot of this trail is washed out, especially the main access road that you do go down to get down into the trail system. Did find that very rocky and washed out. Upon my visit to this park, there were maps available right at the main trailhead. However, they did only show a very small portion of the trails with your standard numbering system. By my guess, I would say that the map that was provided at the trailhead probably only had about 25% of the trails that were at this ATV park. Once I did get into the trails, it was very difficult navigating it because you only had a map for a portion of it, and when it did come time to find out where you were, you really did not have a map to be able to help you find where you actually were in the ATV park. So for first-time visitors that don't know their way around this park, it can become very tricky because, like I said, you are not provided with a map. I don't know if you went on one of the apps or online, if maybe you could get a better map that did show a larger portion of the trails that are available at this ATV park. During my ride at this park, I did run into a lot of groups and individuals that were actually lost at the ATV trails, simply because of the map and because the numbering system seemed to only really pertain to the portion of the trails that were pictured on the map that was provided. So, I mean, it did really make it very difficult, and I did feel like the numbering system at these trails is not that great, and they do not have the scattered around the park like a lot of other parks do, saying if the trail that you're about to go on is a novice or slightly difficult or an expert trail. So people that are just looking for a joyride or first-time riders, like I said, I really wouldn't recommend this one because of the lack of, signage, and it's easy to really get lost at this park. The Pohopoco ATV trails are open from Memorial Day through the last weekend of September, so you do got a couple months of riding at this park. They do open after hunting season for a few months to do winter riding. As I did say, ATVs, side-by-sides, and UTVs that are 58 inches or under are permitted. They do have a 1,250-pound dry weight that they do want you to be under to ride there, but a lot of side-by-sides are over that. But so as long as you fit within the 58 inches, they really don't bother you. You also are required to have your ATV or side-by-side or UTV registered and insured. And this park is only accessible during daylight riding hours. As I did say, based on the navigation and accessibility, if you are a map user, this is not the park for you because the numbering system is not the greatest, and maps provided at the park are not that great because they do not show the whole park. As I did say, this park does include 14 miles of trails, which it could be slightly higher because I don't know if they're 14 miles that they're going by their map that they're providing, or based on the actual trails that are at this place. As I did say, navigation can be a little difficult at this park because of the situation of the gates that are not situated in the best positions. Like I said, with my side-by-side, I did find a lot of difficult situations where I was in luck to have an additional person in my party that was able to help navigate through some of the tougher gates that were angled and by trees and were very angled but in the terrain, and it was like sloped and there was lots of roots, so you were bouncing around and trying to navigate through the gates, and with my 10-foot long machine it was a little bit difficult. Like I said, luckily I did have a person in my party that was able to help navigate these gates that were very difficult to get through. The cost for this ATV trail park is free since it is a Pennsylvania state forest. Because of that, being free, it does not have the best maintenance, but for state parks, I'd say that this one was decently in good shape. I mean, I don't think it's very maintained by the Department of Natural Resources, but based on other state parks I'm into, it wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best either. Alright, now we're going to talk about difficulty. The trails at this park I feel are mostly novice. However, the mud pits can be very difficult to navigate because of the deep ruts. Just because of the mud pits being filled with water, there are still the ruts that are in there from when they do dry up, and people are going through them when they are filled with water and when they're not. I feel like probably a lot of the ruts would be created from when there's not the water in them, because I feel that these mud pits at this park are deep enough that the water is going to counter some of the mud that you are picking up and put it back into the mud pit. I did find a lot of the trails, like you thought you were going down a novice trail to maybe a slightly difficult one, and all of a sudden it just would switch to a more difficult type trail just because of washout and wear and tear from vehicles going over them. So just make sure that you do stay within a reasonable speed, because you will find that, like I said, you'll find trails that vary in difficulty based, even if you're just going by the numbering system, you'd be going from 1 to 2, and you could, just from that short distance, you could experience a wide variety of different difficulties in the trail system. Like I did say, the entrance that gets you down to the main access road from the parking lot was a little slightly more difficult, just because of how rocky it was and washed out it was. But overall, I'd say probably these trails were mostly novice. The main trailhead at this park does feature a decent amount of parking. I'd classify probably as about a medium-sized staging area, where I could definitely easily see that this ATV park could get filled up very quickly on a weekend, just because of it just not being the biggest parking lot. But I mean, it's bigger than some parks that I've been to, but there is a lot of room in the road that you do drive to get to the parking lot, where if you probably needed to, you probably just pull off to the side and unload. So overall, I mean, the staging area is nice and flat, so it makes it very easy to unload your vehicles. However, I did not see a ramp system that was available in the parking lot to unload ATVs off the back of a truck that do not have ramps, which a lot of other state forests I've been to have had a ramp system there. That way you don't need the ramps to get your ATV off the back of your truck. Overall, I'd give this ATV a park about a 2.8 out of 5, just for the simple fact that this park is not very well maintained. It does feature a lot of washout. However, what it does make up for in the trails that are not in the best of shape, it does make up for beautiful scenery, because you are driving through the woods and the forest. So I like that some of the trails are navigated to go through the actual forest, go around the trees, so it does have a lot of very beautiful scenery. For those that are looking for mud pits, this park does feature a lot of deep mud pits. So there is a lot, and there is a nice big play area that does feature a lot of very, very deep mud pits. So it does give you people that are looking to just go and play in the mud, it does give them a spot to play in the mud where they're actually away from all the other people that are like leisure riding or just riding for the fun of it, to keep them away from, just that way they're not causing trouble for other people. Like I said, also affecting my reading would be the lack of a very good numbering system and available maps, because these can both be a turnoff for leisure riders, because some people do like to go by a map, and do like to have that feeling of security, knowing that they can just follow the numbering system to get back to their vehicle. This park did not seem to be very patrolled by it. While I was there were people doing donuts in the actual staging park parking lot, and kicking up stones at people's vehicles. That was a very big turnoff. I did see the cops drive by while the people were doing it and racing around the parking lot, and they did nothing. So I don't feel like this is very well patrolled. While I was out on the trails, on several occasions I did almost get hit by people that were doing donuts on the main trail. So I feel like a little bit more patrolling at this park might be good. A good idea, because some people that are just going out to ride and to just enjoy their time don't want to be in those situations where people are doing horseplay and causing potential you know, injury to the people that are just out there to have fun. So thank you for watching my review. Don't forget to please click the like button and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And please don't forget to check out some of my riding videos that I do have posted on my YouTube channel.